welcome back to my channel. This is my January wrap-up. First off, I read Welcome to Hell by Demelsa Carlton. This is a 1 star. Unfortunately, it was only 32 pages long and I still wanted to DNF it. So that should tell you how that reading went. This was about literally hell on earth, demons, devils, succubus, and creatures like that. I'm not going to go into too much detail, so I don't want to spoil it. Would go about in everyday life, so businesses and stuff like that, and I was expecting more to focus on the world building, but it was just a quick smutty book. It wasn't even that smutty. It was supposed to be erotica, but it really wasn't. It was more a romance. So yeah, a bit disappointed, but we'll roll on to the second book that I read. Then I read A Little Bit Worried by Ciara Gavin. Look how adorable this picture book is. It is so cute. And the illustrations in here are amazing. Beautiful. It's all about a little weasel, and he's a little bit worried because of the storm blowing in, and he's really scared, and he comes across his friend Mole, who makes him feel better. This came out as a 4-star read. I also read the Litterbugs collection by Ruby Henry, and these are some short stories about animals and recycling, and about humans dropping litter. Really good for your little ones to learn about recycling and picking their rubbish up and putting it in the bin, and is completely and utterly adorable. This was a 5-star. Then I read Beyond Repair by Annie Hughes, now AJ Love, and to be honest, this went straight in the unhaul pile. It really wasn't as good as I remember, but I only read the first couple of pages and then for whatever reason put it down years later, and I just wasn't interested. I did read it, I did complete it, but the relationships with the characters were absolutely despicable and they treated each other like garbage, so really wasn't interested in that book at all. That did come out as a 1-star. Then I read Dear Dumb Diary, Let's Pretend This Never Happened by Jim Benton. This was a 3-star read, unfortunately, and went straight into the unhaul pile. Really problematic. It was good the first time around that I read it, but it's not a book that I can reread. All about a girl and her dislike of another girl in her class, about how she's being bullied. And I really enjoyed the illustrations and the inner workings of her mind. But yeah, it didn't hold up well. Then I read Fated for the Bear by Mina Carter. This is a self-published indie author. I've seen her around on Facebook quite a bit. She's in a couple of the groups I'm in. And I'm not normally into shifters. I was really low expectations going into this book, but I ended up really loving it. This was a 4-star read, and I loved the club part of it, the relationships. Yeah, it was a bit insta-lovey, but that's completely fine. To be honest, you expect it with paranormal romance, and I really ended up loving it. It really shocked me, to be honest. The last couple of shifters I've read have been 1-star, so it's not a trope that I really tend to go for. Yeah, I ended up really loving this. Like I said, I'm really shocked. I mean, you can probably tell. Next up, I read Percy Jackson and the Lightning Thief. This was my first read of it. I read this for limping along with the gorgeous Pris from Pris Peruses, and I fell in love with this book. It is by far one of my most favourite middle grade series of all time, and I don't say that lightly. Middle grades with me are, you need to be right up the top in order to get a look in. I didn't think anything could top Matilda, but this comes really, really close. I loved the camp setting, the school setting, I loved the friendships, the quests. I loved how you saw the different gods coming into it, and this was amazing. I did watch the movie for it a couple of years ago now, but I remember I didn't like it all that much, so I was a bit hesitant on starting the books. But I got to a point where I forgot most of the movie, so I started reading Percy Jackson and the Lightning Thief with Pris, and I absolutely fell in love with it completely. Definitely a 5-star. I read The Christmas Tree Wish by Karen Inglis. This is all about a Christmas tree that has a broken branch and his worry about not being able to find a family ready for Christmas. As he can see all of his Christmas tree friends leaving and he's still left behind, and it's all about going through that. It came out as a 5-star read as well. Next up I read the Heartstopper series by Alice Oseman. This is about 2 young boys falling in love and trying to come out to their friends and their parents in everyday school life. There is an adaptation on Netflix and has stayed really true to the books. I really recommend it. The characters are full of heart. You'll fall in love with them instantly, I know I did. And I really enjoyed these. They felt like a lovely warm hug and has been by far one of my most favourite series of all time. And it's a really cute graphic novel. I know they look quite chunky, but they aren't that big. A few illustrations from the first book. And it's really adorable. I try and reread these every year if I can, and it really sets me up for a year's worth of reading. Then I read quite a few books from the Elbow Grease series by John Cena. Yes, he is the former WWE wrestler and turned children's author. He was one of my favourite wrestlers of all time, so I couldn't help checking his books out. This is My Monster Truck Family, and it's all about a monster truck family that go on all these different adventures and really moral lessons like recycling and being friends and sharing, and really cute, really adorable, and the illustrations are beautiful. Really cute. And of course they all came out as 5-star reads. We've also next up got Fast Friends, which is the 3rd in the series of the main hard books and is a reread for me. Then we have The Cleanup Crew, with a new little character. Really cute. And last but not least, Get Out and Play, which is another step into reading from that series. That's the illustrations. Then I read The Suitcase Kid by Jacqueline Wilson. This came out as a 4-star read and all about this little girl and her pet rabbit called Radish, and about her parents splitting up and her dealing with that. Then I read Goodnight Sleepy Unicorn by Igloo Books, and this is a really cute, really fast little picture book with adorable illustrations. Really quick read, only took me 5 minutes if that, and came out as a 5-star read. So if you have a little one, I really highly recommend that you check this one out. I also read The Snack by Justin Davis. This again was another children's picture book, really spooky one, brilliant for October and the spooky season. But if you're a spooky lover like me, then you don't mind reading that all year round. This was a 5-star read. Next up is How I Learned to Fly by R.L. Stine. As you can see, it's part of the Goosebumps series. It's all about this rivalry between these two boys, and one that's, which is our main character, is constantly losing and finds this old book with a recipe to create a potion in order to fly. And it's all about what happens with that. And as you know from R.L. Stein and the Goosebumps series, quite creepy. I read this in my teens and really enjoyed it back then. It was 5 stars. Upon reread, it was really problematic. I mean, you've probably seen Gavin from How to Train Your Gavin's video once he done the Goosebumps, reading all the series. Yeah, a little bit disappointed. It was on par with either a 2 or a 3 star. Really couldn't make up his mind. So I finally settled on a 2 star, and if it wasn't for the nostalgia with the series, I would consider unhauling all these books. It doesn't hold up well. Next up is the first book from My Undead Life series, Oh My God Zombie, by Emma T. Graves. Get it? Emma T. Graves. It's really short and it's part mixed media, part illustrations, part text, and cute little fun facts in the back as well. I stumbled upon the series completely by accident and ended up really falling in love with it. I was just perusing cheap books on Amazon and this happened to pop up on my feed and really liked the look of the book. I'm into my middle grade series. This is about a zombie, which is perfect for this channel. And I read it a couple of years ago. I've reread it about 10-15 times now. It's really an underrated series and self-published as far as I'm aware as well. So I really recommend that you go check her out. I don't think she's making any more in the series because the last one was out quite a few years ago now, way before 2020. So unfortunately I don't think there's any more, but I still love them regardless. This was a 5-star read. Next up is from the Recon Academy series and is Mixed Signals by Chris Everhart. This is a cute, tiny little graphic novel series. I haven't seen anyone talking about this on YouTube. I completely stumbled upon it by accident, perusing Amazon again. All about these 4 kids that fight against crime and other situations. They've all developed unique abilities like forensics, martial arts, computers, things like that. And it was really entertaining. I really loved the relationships between the characters, which this tends to focus on more than the actual story, but you still get an action-packed story throughout it, which I really enjoy. Upon reread, this came out as a 4-star. Next up, I read the entire Maya and the Rising Dark series, which all came out at 5 stars. This is by Rena Barron and is a really charming middle grade series. It is a portal fantasy. It has different creatures in it, teenage antics, and how their family is coping with everything. I don't want to spoil too much, but you do travel to a different world, and it's really intense for a middle grade, but still entertaining and still comforting at the same time, which I really, really loved. Her father goes missing, and it's all about her adventure to try and get her father back. She follows him one night, and he disappears around the corner. All of a sudden these creatures come out to try and attack her, and there's a massive portal. That was enough to intrigue me, and I really ended up loving it so much that I bought the entire series. This one was a gift from my lovely friend Emma, from Emma Roslanta, and I really, really loved it. I think it's going to become one of my favourites of all time. I read The Scythe Wielder's Secret for my Red Covers vlog by Christopher Menino. This is all about the first female death that's been there for 5,000 years. an ordinary teenage girl who found herself training to be a female death. It's set in a university college, and there's all different creatures, all different realms, and she has to make the decision whether or not to stay there as a death or do this really impossible test in order to go home. And it's full of epic stakes, high fantasy, and really involved for a YA. This came out at a low 4 stars. Then I read The Double Trouble Society by Carrie Hope Fletcher. This is about two girls that are best friends, but they're more like sisters, come across this witch, and there's this town legend, and it's all about friendship and found family, and I was here for all the cozy vibes. This really was amazing. The audiobook for it was absolutely incredible, and I highly recommend that you follow the audiobook along whilst reading this at the same time. This came out at a high 4 stars. Then I read Priest by Sierra Simone. This was all about a priest that lost his priesthood because he fell in love with this woman, and it's all about him coming to terms with that and the relationship going forward. This was quite smutty, quite steamy, and it came out as a 4 stars. The only thing that I would have liked if it was a bit more build up to losing his priesthood, but it was more or less instantaneously, which really took me out of the story a little bit. But other than that, really high, really good read. Then I read Why Me by Sienna Grant. This was a YA contemporary all about bullying in high school, and it was really emotional, really sad story. I really enjoyed the friendship. She had a great support system, and it was all about her coming to terms with whether or not she told anyone about the bullying or not. And I really loved this. This came out another 5 stars, but I'm not surprised. I've read this one over and over and over. It's by a good friend of mine, Sienna Grant. I really highly think that you should check her out, and she's an indie self-published author, and it's quite short, so it was easy to fly through. Then I read Still Beating by Jennifer Hartman. This is the beautiful, beautiful Mystic Box version with the gorgeous gold and gilt sprayed edges, and that's the back. Absolutely stunning. The formatting in this is incredible, and it is signed there, and that's what the title page is like, and then goes on to white pages with black text. Absolutely stunning. I didn't expect to enjoy this way as much as I did. It was a full-blown 5 stars, one of my favourites of this year. Really, really shocked. I know everyone praises Jennifer Hartman, but with hyped authors in the past, I haven't loved them as much as other people. So I was really low stakes, low expectations going into this, and really didn't expect to come to love it as much as I did. It's all about this girl and her best friend's other half. They get kidnapped. They're kept for a long time in a basement/dungeon and forced to do things to each other, and are forced to go through the changing of their relationship, and really grueling, really heartfelt, and this made me cry, which isn't an easy task. So yeah, I really, really, really highly recommend this one. Absolutely adored it. I read The Night We Got Stuck in a Story by Ben Miller. This was quite a chunky middle grade for a middle grade, and all about this tree that they're tearing down, but there's a family of spiders there which they're trying to save, and they stumble upon a portal inside the tree and takes them to a whole another world on whether they can save the tree and the world they've found themselves thrown upon. And really heartfelt, which seems to be a vibe this month. Really emotional, and had a good few fair laughs in it as well, which I really, really enjoyed. The audiobook is absolutely fantastic. I really recommend that you follow along the audiobook with this one. This came out as a 4-star. Next up we have Monster in the Woods by Amy Willis. This isn't currently on Amazon. She does publish them herself on her own shop, which I will leave linked in the description box down below. This is another really cute, really thin graphic novel all about depression and finding yourself on your own way in the world. Loads of mental health rep, and wait till you see these illustrations. Aren't they adorable? Absolutely stunning. Beautiful. This is by far one of my favourite graphic novels of all time. It is right up there with Heartstopper. Next up I read Bubbles and Blanky by Ben Clanton. These are really cute, really adorable baby books. As you may not know, I used to have my own blog on Facebook as the name Dark Raven Reviews, and I used to do any age range and any genre for authors, and these are two of the ones that I've reviewed on there. They are really adorable. It's from the Narwhal and Jelly series, and they have different age ratings, which I will show you shortly. So cute. Really wholesome, really funny. They even made me laugh at my age, and I really highly recommend them. Following that, of course, I read all 7 of the Narwhal and Jelly series. This is about a narwhal and Jelly, a little jellyfish, and all about their adventures in the sea. And I'll show you some of the illustrations. So cute. They go on all different types of adventures, and they're really entertaining and really fast, really quick reads. And as I should have mentioned, they've all come out at 5 stars. Next up are 2 standalone books by the same author, Cheryl Davis, Perfect Potion and The Fairy Who's Mean. These both came out at 5 stars, which I know they would because, again, they are rereads. They're really cute. This is The Perfect Potion, and this is the illustrations that you can find in there. So adorable. Really stunning artwork. Really wholesome characters. That's a vibe that I go for on my channel when I'm not into horrors and thrillers. Something to cleanse the palate. And we have The Fairy Who's Mean. Again, a good little moral story. And that's the illustrations in that one. Absolutely beautiful. Love unicorns. Then I read The Haunting of Evelyn Jones. This again came out at a 5-star read, so going fantastically well this month. I know I had a set TBR, but I didn't stick to it. I read what I wanted to read, and if I fail the challenge, which you will see in a moment once I'm done talking about these books, Then I just roll them on to next month, or as a new rule, which you will see in a moment. The Haunting of Evelyn Jones is by Phil Hicks and is about her moving to a seaside town and goes into a bookshop. She meets this really kind, really sweet old man. He's a little bit eccentric, but I love him. He's one of my favourite characters. She finds this book about ghosts because that's what she's into, and part of the book has been removed. One story is completely blacked out and is all about her finding out what was erased. Next up we have Big Nate Flips Out and Goes for Broke. As you may have seen from my Red Covers vlog, if you haven't, I will leave it linked by here somewhere. And these are these really cute little comic strips about this kid that loves to draw. So half novelisation, half comic. And he has these really madcap adventures with his gang in school. They love to draw comic books and they love to get into all sorts of trouble, much to the dismay of their teachers. And it was really entertaining and I really enjoyed it. It was nice to revisit the series. I haven't read the series in quite a while before I done my YouTube channel, so it was really nice to delve back into them. And then the last one I read, which was The Taking of Annie Thorne by C.J. Tudor. She is by far one of my most favourite authors of all time, and this again was another amazing instalment by her. She knocks it out of the park every single time. This is about a bunch of boys that found this old mine shaft and found a way to get in, and his younger sister ended up following him and going missing for 2 days. She did end up coming back, but she was just different. And then we go to him grown up and then flashing back and forth between the present day and the past as he tries to figure out what went wrong with his sister. And there was quite a few twists and turns that I really didn't see coming in this. I mean, it really shocked me. I completely expected this to go a different way than what it did, and yeah, I really loved it. There was all different parts of different storylines that were actually in here as well, where he joins a new school as a teacher and talks to the kids and tries to find out why it's happening again. Children are going missing, coming back, and are just different than they were before. And that's a whole mystery side of it, and really entertaining thriller. So that's my wrap up, and I'll catch you in the next one. Bye.